We are back.
You look different.
Can I say? You know, we're gonna talk NWO.
Like, this would be the perfect time to just cue the music. Like,
man, now you talking about one of the biggest, actually probably the biggest group in professional wrestling, the biggest faction, biggest stable. You know, because they was all in one.
yeah.
To the point they had a team and a B team.
Mm-hmm.
Before they went to this, I really wish I had the black and white one. I actually had one.
Why don't you just order? You order everything else.
Well, you know, I had the For Life shirt.
Oh, okay.
My grandmother had bought me from Arkansas. So I was like, wow, you know. But
I'm gonna have to get one too, yo. Just for historical reasons.
exactly, you know, no matter, whenever you hear that music,
I'm getting giddy because we about to talk about the NWO. I'm sorry, I just want to put that out there.
Hey.
This is my joint, son.
You know, I mean, the Four Horsemen were great. DX was great. But they weren't like the NWO. I'm not saying one is better, folks. So
don't start that tripping. They be tripping on it. Nah, you feel me? You trying to play us.
But the thing is, with the NWO, they did something that those other two groups didn't do. They single-handedly was the reason that WCW took over the ratings for 88 consecutive weeks.
The NWO, I think, in my opinion, and most people agree with me, it had that same impact. And I think this is the difference between the NWO and the DX. Not to compare the groups themselves, but from impact. Why we did a show on gang warfare, and
which you can find on iTunes at your local Apple store.
No,
iTunes store. Well, shoot, you can go on the Apple store and order it. You connect to their Wi-Fi and say, "Look, I got an iPod. Get me Wrealm, Gang Warfare, NWO."
We should talk to Apple about that. Get some advertising, maybe a couple of posters. But anyways, the impact that the four had on the 80s, as far as facts, I feel like the NWO had the 90s, the mid 90s on to I guess its demise. The NWO was something fresh and we had not seen before, and like I said, it had the same impact as the Four Horsemen as far as drawing that natural heat, this group of villains, and it also had that must-see TV factor that you saw in television, not just wrestling.
Yeah.
Because that was a period of time where people were just watching wrestling because it was good TV.
Exactly.
And that's the difference between now and today. Now today, it's a struggle because only wrestling fans are watching it. But during this time, the NWO was able to have that crossover appeal because they had familiar faces that people were familiar with. And maybe you didn't watch wrestling like that, but you all knew who this NWO was because Hogan had tripped out because something had happened that we had never seen before. The almighty Hulk Hogan had turned into a bad guy. That was never done or foreseen ever. And I feel like other companies try to capitalize on that as well with Jeff Hardy.
Yeah.
Jeff Hardy's been a face, and then with TNA, all of a sudden, that's something you've never seen before. He didn't have the same impact by any means.
No.
But you have the guy that arguably is the biggest face of professional wrestling, period. Hogan is the cornerstone of what we know sports entertainment as it is today.
Yeah.
And to see that guy, everybody's hero. I mean, when I say this guy was a hero, he was on everything. He was up there. He was being compared, especially in Mr. Man Event's case, to cartoon characters, to heroes, to G.I. Joe. A wrestler was that guy. You know what I mean? And to have him finally say, "I'm a bad guy now," it was like, wait a minute. This is not the Hulk Hogan we know, that we've always known. Like I said, whether you liked him or not, you tuned in and said, "Hold on, Hulk Hogan's a bad guy?" No, he's not. Let me see.
Yep.
And then when you see what these guys were doing, it just took things to a completely different level. I mean, the NWO was like, I believe, the changing point in the wrestling business as a whole in general. What it did for wrestling as far as crossover, mainstream appeal, the way people watch wrestling, the type of people that were watching wrestling. I think the NWO was just that good. I mean,
because when you're in the NWO, you're in it for life. Even that concepts today, people still go around doing that. A lot of that stuff they did then still takes place now. You're in Baltimore City and you hear that music, you best believe you might be seeing Mr. Main Event driving around, because I will still play the music and blast your ears off.
He's not lying. It's very loud.
I remember when it happened, and I said this on the other show, pretty much, I sum it up. I turned on TV and Tony Schiavone was mad, saying kids were throwing away their toys and ripping up. I said, what? wait a minute, Hogan a bad guy? And then I saw him come out there, and I was like, wow. So then I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, shoot, I'm NWO.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're one of those guys.
Uh-huh.
No, it made sense, though, because like I said, you had half and half. You had the loyal guys one way, and you had the other loyal guys that were loyal to who Hogan was, and you have people that who loyal to Hogan regardless.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes sense, though, because I mean, I remember when I first saw Hulk Hogan's a bad guy. Because at the time, this is when I started to get back into wrestling.
Okay.
My brother was watching it because him and his buddies were watching. He was in about maybe 7th grade.
Mm-hmm.
I was maybe in the 4th, and they had started watching it again. And one day, they all went to the same school. I'm getting out of the car, and him and his buddies are going like this, and I'm like, "What is that?" I'm like, "What are you guys doing?" He goes, "I don't know." He just being a jerk because he didn't want to tell me what it was. So then, all of a sudden, he starts watching wrestling on Mondays. It's about 8 o'clock on TNT. Turns it on, and I see these guys, and I'm like, the NWO, and I see Hogan, and I see Diesel, and I'm like, really? Oh snap! What the heck is going on? And I see Sting, and I'm sitting there like, what is going on in wrestling? And I'm sitting there completely tuned in because the NWO started the show. They were in the middle of the show, and they ended the show.
Yep.
They always did something. I mean, and it was just like, why? And then when I found out who Eric Bischoff was, I'm like, so let me get this straight. The guy who's in charge, he's part of the NWO too. Mm-hmm. I was like, yo, this is crazy.
It was.
Yeah. It was something you've never seen before. And like I said, what I had watched wrestling before was basic stuff when I was a kid. You know, it was come out, wrestling, the match was set, you come out, you wrestle, you wave to the crowd, and you leave. Mm-hmm. But the NWO gave you these storylines that you had not seen on television in a wrestling setting before.
Yep.
You know, you saw an edgier product in WWE, you know, with Shawn and Brett and the way things were going around 96, 97, but it did incorporate into the storylines, maybe in promos, maybe in the matches itself, but you never saw full-fledged stories that had nothing to do with the matches themselves. The matches were surrounded around the stories instead of the stories around the matches. Mm-hmm. It was different. It was a gang of these guys. It was like, wow, they're a really big group. All these people you saw, including the familiar faces that you knew before, like DiBiase and Rhodes, X-Pac, you know, under different names and yada, yada, yada. The NWO really, like, set the wrestling world on fire.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the NWO, could they have survived even once they split into two? Mm-hmm. But NWO Hollywood, NWO Wolfpack. Do you think they still could have survived? Maybe if they would have kept Sting out of it.
I'm sure, because before Sting was in it, it was still hot. You're talking the Wolfpack, right?
Well, I'm just saying to keep, like, you know how we always say, or let's say they stay separated, and let's say the finger poke of doom never happened. Mm-hmm. Could the company have still been hot, and could they still, you know?
Oh yeah, because at the time you didn't have anybody that was your face with WCW anyway. Mm-hmm. You could have, which we'll get into later. You had DDP, you had Goldberg. It wouldn't have hurt to put Sting, but to be honest with you, with Goldberg taking off, you didn't really need Sting to be that guy anymore.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So that's understandable.
Right.
But I mean, either way, you could have got some type of longevity out of it.
So do you think them coming back together ultimately hurt them?
Yes, I think that was the beginning of the end.
Okay.
Because the Wolfpack was hot. Because that was like the renegade NWO. Like I said, as a fan, we enjoyed it. But like, you know, that was the calm before the storm. At the end of the day, when we look at it now, that was probably the beginning of the end. But we were too busy having so much fun. Because the Wolfpack was like the cool guys that was in the NWO.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, from the music and they're like, you know, even when the rap music came on, you was like, yeah, this is the cool NWO. All you guys are the, you know, sort of the...
Cue that music. See, I enjoy rocking.
I still listen to it like it's a regular song. Exactly. I do not care. I just better than the crap half the people out here listen to it anyway.
Tell me about it.
You feel me?
You know, but just sitting there thinking about that, it's like, man, if they would have stayed and gave it a longer run, because when you think about it, ultimately, they ran from what? The spring of '98, mm-hmm. all the way up until the first week in '99.
Right.
If you give it a whole year, you know, Hogan left to go run for president, then he came back. Even if he would have stayed and said, look, Scott Steiner, you're not doing this right. Mm-hmm. I'm coming back. I'm taking over. And then you have him and Nash going there back and forth. They was going to fight later on in the year anyway. You know, because then the NWO broke up. By 99, by midway through 99, WCW was just, I was turning to it because it was wrestling. Like I do TNA. Well, I'm getting into trying to get into TNA now, folks. But I was just turning to it, look at it, turn it off.
by the time Hogan had left, but that's the last thing I remember about WCW at that year, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I remember the finger poke of doom, but I think I remember Hogan running. I don't remember anything after that. I don't remember what that was about. I didn't realize Hogan was even leaving. I remember he saw him running for president. I'm like, this is a joke. I know he's not running for president. The dumbest thing I've ever heard. But I don't remember anything after that. I kept up with it. I knew what was going on every day. I knew who was doing what. By that time, I was so wrapped up in WWE and DX and everything. I just no longer cared to watch WWE. It just did not make any sense to me after a while and then when I found out the NWO merged, I was like, I think I turned it back on and I saw them with the red, white, and black stuff. And I seen Hogan, I seen Steiner and everybody. And I was like, that's just dumb. Like, I thought it was a bad idea all the way around. It didn't make sense to me. Yeah. And I was just like, man, this is terrible. And that was the last time I ever remember following WCW completely. Like, I kept up with it because, like I said, it was wrestling. I would watch stuff here and there, but that was it.
So, just looking at it, do you think they hurt themselves, or do you think just that Austin and Rock got hot and really...
Both.
Okay.
Both. It didn't help them that Austin and Rock and those guys just took off because it was so bad. As a wrestling fan, we try to catch as much wrestling as we possibly can when we get a chance to, because it's wrestling regardless what it is. Even if it's the indie show that comes on the local cable station, we'll just check it out for a minute or two to see what's going on because it's wrestling. But it honestly got to a point where I looked at it. I looked at WWE and WCW and said, you know what? I'm getting enough from WWE to not even worry about WCW.
Because let's remember, even with Austin and The Rock, WCW was still winning in the ratings.
Yeah.
They didn't win their first rating war until the night Foley became champion.
Right.
You know, and it didn't help that Bischoff was giving away the results.
Right.
But they didn't win till Foley became champion. And that's not until November. Was it? That wasn't until January of '99.
Right.
Yeah, December, January '99. So all throughout '98, when you had Austin versus The Undertaker,
right? You
had Sable coming out there half naked every night.
She was half naked though.
Yeah. And Jackie too. You know, WWE was throwing everything but the kitchen sink, and in some cases they was throwing the kitchen sink, but Nitro was still winning the ratings.
Right.
You know, but it's like, you know, I'm sitting there thinking, I was like, wait a minute. That finger poke of doom not only spelled the end for the coming, that's what people say, all right, enough of this. I'm watching Raw live.
That was the last straw. That was the last straw. It was like, come on now, this is getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, just when you thought you want to get something fresh, something new, like I said, because these guys were still drawing. I mean, WCW was still, you know, on the money and they were rolling. You know, it just fell apart.